It's absolutely stunning. There's an old castle ruin up to the right, about 2.5, 3 miles from town. There's the Cliffs of Moher that will change your life if you've ever seen them before. I always say a trip to Ireland, if it isn't life-changing, it's at least life-affirming.
All right, welcome, listener. Welcome to the Whole Story Podcast. I think this is episode number 6. I've got my good buddy Robby with me, and if you are on the YouTubes, if you will, you might recognize a face down below me. We'll introduce him as our special guest tonight. Quick recap over the weekend. I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch a little bit of the Mexico Open. Tony Finau had a good weekend, it seemed, with his family in tow, as we saw on the Netflix special. So, Tony, if you're listening to this and you'd like to come on our podcast, go right ahead. If you're looking for a place to stay in Augusta next year, I've got a perfect place. It'll fit your family. It'll be fun. Wasn't sure if Jon Rahm was going to be able to pull it off for his two-peat, right? Wasn't he trying to be the defending champion? Yep. And that would have been, his 6th or 7th win of the year already if he'd won? Like 5. Yeah, that would have been a monster way to start the year off. So, yeah, can't recommend Full Swing enough. If you guys had a chance, we're not sponsored by Netflix, at least not yet, but we'll make a little plug there. Fun little thing if you've got your family around and want to see some good stuff about some fun golf guys. But we're not here to talk about the tour. I'm going to pass it off to my good buddy Robby. He's going to introduce our special guest, and this should be great.
Absolutely. Well, we've got, if you can see us, if you're watching our YouTube channel, you can see who this is, a face that is very recognizable. If you're listening, the voice will be recognizable because he is, as some people have described, one of the greatest interviewers in golf. He's interviewed anybody in the world of golf you can think of. And so it's an honor to have Matt Adams join us on the show. Let me read off a couple things. New York Times bestselling author. You can watch him every day during the week on Fairways of Life. So check out fairwaysoflife.com. He's got a YouTube channel. You can watch him there on the Golf Channel all the time. He's an equipment expert. Anything and everything in golf, right? And then for some reason he said, yeah, I'll come on the Whole Story Podcast and tell some stories. So Matt, as we get rolling here, how often do you ever get interviewed? It seems like you're always the one doing the questions, asking the questions.
Jonathan, Robby, thank you for having me on. I don't get interviewed all that much, to tell you the truth. It's not kind of natural to me. The natural thing for me is, I guess, to ask the questions more so than to give the answers. So I would say relatively no, not a lot, but when somebody asks, I'm happy to do it.
No, we really appreciate it. Well, I guess let's just ask from the beginning. Like, how did you get involved with golf? Like, what was your first entry level into golf, and how did you get into the business side of it?
My entry into the golf was on the green grass side, and my first job in golf was working for a little 9-hole course up in northwestern Connecticut called Lake Warramog Country Club. I was working for a head professional. He was a PGA professional, but he was also the GM, named Joe Matus. And I was just a kid, and I, you do everything, right? You're from running carts to if you have to, you're gonna rake bunkers, whatever. And he needed help on the club side, so I would work all summer, and it kind of evolved where I was there because it's multiple years, right? You're going from high school into college, etc. And I got to know the place so well and what he needed and his style that, by the time I graduated college, I was officially the assistant GM of this club, so it was like, you're in school with a bunch of buddies and you're going out to grab beer at 50-cent draft nights. And during the summertime, I remember finishing, guys. Now this is the 80s. I was making $750 a week. It was like a king's ransom. So that's how I got into the game initially, was just on the green grass side. But when I graduated college, I went to Providence College. When I graduated, my first job was ESPN. So I kind of learned production and, worked with all these legends now. When you look back on them, the Chris Bermans, and I remember working with Tom Mees, rest his soul, and, all these different people. And the game of golf kept whispered in my ear. And so I took a job with a company that packaged events, that televised events that then they syndicated over networks then that were called Sports Channel. Now it might be MSG, New England Sports Network. Where are you guys located?
Jonathan's in Augusta. I'm in South Carolina.
Okay, so you guys would be Bally's South, Southeast, as an example. Those would be the different affiliates. And while I was working for that company, one of their clients was a manufacturing company, golf equipment manufacturing company, and the guy had a heart attack. And they needed someone to come in and kind of run the day-to-day for this guy because he couldn't do it full-time anymore. And they asked me if I'd be interested. I said, sure. And thus I was thrust into another kind of chapter of the game. And it was golf equipment manufacturing, where I spent years and years. Gosh, I built for McGregor, Lynx, Slotline, Ram, Wilson, Nicholas, Peerless, which was Palmer's line, and on and on and on. I tell you, basically, I killed every line that I ever manufactured for. When you think back on all the different names. And then we sold the company into Northwestern Golf. I worked for them in Chicago, and we built, again, my expertise was kind of private label manufacturing. So we build these huge production lines for other people's brands. So that's how I got this kind of eclectic, weird mix. And after 9/11, our kids were very, very young. They were babies. And we decided we wanted to go home. And I went back into the green grass side and started. What my job was to turn around distressed assets, but I was also general manager at Newport National up in Newport, Rhode Island. So a long-winded answer to the question you asked, but that's the reason why my background is kind of so diverse in the game.
Yeah, I mean, that helps explain why you're an expert when they say, hey, let's talk about the new clubs and things like that. And yeah, all the things you were working on led to what they continue to develop today. So building blocks, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Very nice. Well, you, one of the things that I find very interesting and also jealous, Jonathan, we're gonna have to get in on one of these at some point, but you lead amazing golf trips, and you take folks all over the world. You're heading out in about 3 weeks to go to Scotland.
Yeah. How did you know that?
Yeah. Hey, man. We do our research here. And then you got coming up later in August, I think you're going to Michigan. Is that right?
Yeah, we're going up to Boyne Golf in Michigan. The trip that's coming up in 3 weeks is based out of St. Andrews. Mm-hmm. So we'll do the old course, and we'll do Kings Barnes, and we'll do all the courses in the area. But I wanted to bring them up to Cruden Bay. We're going to go to Carnoustie. We're going to go to Glen Eagles, and we had to play Glen Eagles because there's so many big events there. I covered a Ryder Cup there because I do play-by-play in Europe on the radio side. So I covered the Ryder Cup, but it was there. And then we covered the Solheim Cup, but it was there. And I was like, I got to bring people to this course. I want them to see it and, get a sense of what it's like. So we'll do, I think, 10 rounds, if I'm not mistaken, on that trip, which will be a lot of fun. And I think those trips are unique because I call it a Christmas card, friends. You may show up as 24 different individuals. You're going to leave as 24 friends. And that's just the nature of those kind of trips. And it's the old course is so special. We were just working on it today, in fact, where we have this offer to visit the building where Old Tom worked. When Old Tom Morris died in 1906, if memory serves, it was either 06 or 08. When he died, what happened was there were two doorways. One was the loo, the toilet, and one was a staircase, and he chose the wrong one, and he fell down the staircase, and he was a very old man, and he killed him. So we're going to actually visit that building and get a chance to kind of see where he lived and worked and ultimately passed. And it's just that kind of history to me is amazing. I think history is so important. Yeah.
I got a chance to visit Scotland years back, probably 5-6 years ago. And an old pastor friend of ours from Scotland, he had moved back home, and he lives off the 9th green at Carnoustie. And he said, my son and I got to go putt the practice green there at Carnoustie, but we said, hey, we'd love to connect with you. And he asked what our plans were. And we said, well, we're going to see St. Andrews, kind of our last thing. And he said, I'll drive over there and give you a tour. So he walked us around, the town of St. Andrews. And we went to the graveyards where the Old Time Morris is. And
Yes.
he just, the incredible university and just everything there. And then we putted on the Himalayas. So it was, we didn't get a chance to play it, but it was an amazing experience. So let me ask this, what course there besides the old course, besides Carnoustie? Kingsbarn's getting a lot of attention now, but what's the one that not everybody hears about that you say is that you're going to play on your trip that you would recommend to others?
I think Crail Old is very unique, and I think people will know the name. I think it's famous enough that they'll know it, but I doubt that many people have taken the time to head over there and play. It's a relatively short course, and I've played it at times when it's been so benign it feels like a par 3 course. I've played it at times where the wind is ripping in off an angry sea, and you can't get to a par 3 with a driver. I mean, it's just how it goes. But off the 14th hole, there's as you're walking to the next tee, you have to pay attention. There's an old cave, and inside of that cave, on the roof of this in the stone, there's etched an old Celtic cross. And rumor was that an old Scottish king took refuge in this cave when they were being invaded. He ended up being killed. So it's got incredible amount of history in this tiny little space. And those are the things that when we go on these trips, like when you're talking about your tour of Scotland, I love that. That's what I do when the people come in. I'll walk them through the town, and I'll take them to Allen Robertson's. I'll take them to Old Tom. I'll take them to Young Tom's graves in the cathedral graveyard. I'll take them to the St. Andrews Castle ruins. I'll show them the Bottle Dungeon, all that stuff that makes St. Andrews so incredibly unique. And the last time, I think it was the last time, maybe the time before, that we were there, what I try to do the night before we play the old course is I try to take them down to the first tee. And the reason why I do this is because it's a very emotional experience, as I'm sure you appreciate. And the first time that I was there, I always take a few of my buddies with me. And one time I was teeing off and I was playing with John McGinnis, a former tour player. And I hit my tee shot, kind of stepped aside for Johnny to hit his. Johnny hits his tee shot. It was a beautiful day, ethereal sunshine. And I turned back to Johnny and I said to him, "Isn't this beautiful? Isn't this special?" And Johnny had tears just pouring down his face. Now, this is a player that's played in multiple PGA Tour events and majors, and yet it was so emotional. So I try to bring people down there before now, so they can kind of get their feet on the ground and you stumble into it, not realizing how much it actually is in the middle of town. And so the last time we did it, it was what year was it? There was an Open coming up that summer, and we stepped down the steps and walked up and went to the first tee to look at it. Who's standing on the first tee with a podium, the claret jug on top of the podium next to him, but Tom Watson.
Wow.
I mean, you can't make up this magic, right? And Tom Watson looks at me and he has this big smile on his face. He goes, "Matty, what are you doing here?" And I said, I'm here with a group. We're gonna tour. And he looks at me like a little kid, and he goes, "Are you guys playing the old course today?" And I was like, "No, not till tomorrow." But it was just so magical. And I said to Tom, "Hey, would you mind if the guys came up and kind of shook your hand and took a picture with you?" He's like, "No, bring them all up." It was just, it's just, that's such a special place, and things happen there. I'll tell you a story that this summer we had the 150th there, which was amazing, and I've got some good stories from that one. But prior to that, we were there in 15. And if you guys recall, the weather was atrocious, absolutely atrocious. So we couldn't finish on Sunday. The event got pushed to Monday. And a lot of our crew ended up having to depart because they were, they're professionals and they're playing in events wherever they are around the world. And that was the year at St. Andrews, at that year, I signed my contract with NBC. And so I can see it's getting dark here. I'm going to try to give you some more light.
Oh, you're fine.
And so I signed my contract with NBC, and I thought that this could be the last time that I broadcast the Open. Of course, what a great way to go out if it was, in fact, at St. Andrews. So Monday dawns, we have the playoff. Zach Johnson ends up winning. All of that was very cool. And as that night, I have to go back to the media center, pack up all my junk. I had to do like 3 or 4 different like culmination shows. And then I had to walk back to where I was staying. I was staying at the dormitories of St. Andrews.
Oh, wow.
The university.
Yeah.
And so it was a misty night. It was cold. It was morose. It felt very much as if it was a reflection of my general aptitude and attitude at that point, because I was sad. I knew my life was going to change. And I was afraid that I was going to lose the one thing that was my favorite professional week of the year, which was broadcasting the Open for the World Radio. So I felt like, I'd love to just get a shot of whiskey and a pint. And every single pub door that I went to was shoulder to shoulder. You couldn't get in. So I'm carrying my bags in each hand, and I'm walking down the street feeling sorry for myself. Misty rain all around me, and the town, as you remember, Robby, is defined by these knee-high, slightly higher than the knee, stone walls that are curved, arched at the top. And I'm walking back to the university in this ancient town, just me in the darkness, accompanied only by my thoughts. And this man pops out from somewhere. I didn't see where he came from, but he emerged through the low stone walls. And he said to me, pointed to my chest, that he said, "Great commentary today."
Oh, wow.
And I had a myriad of thoughts running through my mind, because I'm radio. How would anyone know who I was? I'm thinking to myself, this man's mad. How could he possibly know? So I didn't say anything to him. I kind of reared back in disbelief. And I never said a word. As the man reads my mind, and he goes, "No, it matters." I kid you not. So I never said anything. I just stared at the man, and he picked up and off he went on his merry way. And I tell people that story, and they say, "Was he wearing a tweed hat and a big white beard?" I was like, "No, he was bald and completely drunk." But somehow, some way, in the magic of St. Andrews, at the time and place that I needed to hear exactly what I needed to hear, that happened. That's how special a place it is.
That's awesome.
Crazy. I think if I'm with that group, I'm glad you take me on the night before, because I would need a breakfast ball just enormity. I remember the first time. I've only gone to the Augusta National really from a professional, and even just the first time, literally walking through the gate, not a hole, not trying to put a tee in the ground or anything else, just being there for that moment. I can't imagine trying to just be some guy who probably is a little jet lagged, if you're completely honest, because you're trying to accommodate from coming from somewhere else. So, well, you by far have had the best Twitter response when it comes to this question, but we like to ask everyone, what is your favorite hole in the entire world? Like, if you had one more hole to play, where would that be?
I think for me, I'm Irish. I've dual citizenship. So for me, it's the 6th hole at Lahinch, where have you guys played the 6th hole at Lahinch? Do you know that hole at all?
No, you told us about it though in your response, and it was.
Yeah. I'll try to paint the picture. I'm sure I won't be as eloquent as I was. I honestly don't remember what I wrote to you, because I just answered you because you asked. But you tee off below this ridge of dunes, so you can't see where you're hitting. You have to know the line, or you have to trust the line given to you by a friend or caddy, and you hit up into a plateau. And the plateau arches from right to left off another ridge line of dunes that run down the right side of the hole. You cannot go too far. If you hit it more than from the regular tees from where we play, you might have 240, 250, but it's into the wind coming off the sea. So you effectively can hit it almost as hard as you want. But if the wind shifts and comes from behind you, from inland, then there is a massive, massive, massive hole. Look it up when you guys get a chance. And it drops about 3 stories down. And at the bottom of it, it's as if the devil himself made a bunker at the bottom. And it's not enough that you've fallen 3 stories in a hole, but now there's a bunker at the bottom just to add to your torment. And then the green complex it's relatively flat in some areas, but if you are wayward at all, it falls off dramatically to the left, and the left is just absolute death. It's deep marron grass and fescue grass there. And to the right, there's a series of bunkers that are waiting to devour your hopes. Behind it, though, is what's called Liscannor Bay. And Liscannor Bay, you can see out to the surf break that leads right to the Atlantic Ocean. And if you look close enough, you can see the Statue of Liberty off in the distance. It's absolutely stunning. There's an old castle ruin up to the right, about 2.5, 3 miles from town. There's the Cliffs of Moher that will change your life if you've ever seen them before. I always say a trip to Ireland, if it isn't life-changing, it's at least life-affirming. And that hole seems to embody all of it. It's just such a special place, a brilliant par 4 by every measure.
How many times have you been in the bunker?
It depends on which one you're referring to. The one at the bottom of the hole, I have hit it a few times. The most aggravating way to hit it is when you hit the drive of your life and you miscalculate the end of the fairway and it trundles down into the pit. That's when you know you're reliving your sins.
That's great. Yeah, no, your description of it in the response was great, but just to hear you talk about it, yeah, it definitely. I've never been there, but I did look it up after you sent it, and it looks amazing.
Good.
Not the bunker part, but the hole itself. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of death and destruction for it to be your favorite hole. But you know what? Maybe at the end, if you can make it, it sounds like if you can make it to the green, then it's worth it.
It is. The hard part is if you're, because of the fact that the fairways, you can only go so far and you're cut off. So you can't overpower this hole. So you're going to come in, the best of the best in the best wind conditions may have an 8 or a 9 iron, but normally most people are coming in with a 5 or a 6. More so, there's people coming in with hybrid or a fairway metal. So imagine trying to hit that green I just described into the teeth of the wind off the sea. It's hard.
No. Yeah, no, it'd be fun. I'm sure it'd be a learning experience for sure. It's one of those you'd have to play it twice and hopefully figure it out the next time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. So I heard this morning you're going to Charlotte this weekend. You're going to be at the Wells Fargo doing some broadcasting.
Yeah.
Are you doing it as radio or TV?
No, it's TV. It's PGA Tour Live.
Okay.
Which is on ESPN Plus.
Yep.
And we'll have 4 different feeds. And for me, it's kind of like getting the band back together from the SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio days, because my partner all week is Carl Paulson, and Carl is was playing in the Pro-Am today. And then our on-course reporter is John McGinnis, which is classic. And our producer is a guy named Jeremy Davis, was our producer at PGA Tour Radio. So it's literally getting back 4 old friends, and it's another one of those occasions which I have a suspicion you guys feel the same way about when you're doing this show. It's that you're really not working. Honestly, you're not working. You shake your head, because we would be, if we were sitting at a bar watching the Wells Fargo on television, we would be having the same conversations that the 3 of us are going to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Carl Paulson, didn't he go to South Carolina?
Yes.
That's where I went. So I've always enjoyed listening to him. Yeah. Fellow Gamecocks. So
indeed.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, I've been to Quahala a few times. I haven't gotten to play it, but saw the PGA there, did not get up there for the President's Cup, but it's obviously a beautiful course.
Very much so.
Yeah. So we'll ask at the end of our next thing who you think might win, if you're able to give us a prediction. But we'll jump in. We know we're interrupting family time. We appreciate your time, but we do a thing called Quick 9. So we're going to do like a little rapid fire session. Jonathan, if you want to start us off, and if you want to give a short response, if you want to expand in your answer, feel free to go. But Jonathan, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah. So what is your favorite golf tournament to watch?
My favorite golf tournament to watch would probably be the Masters. my favorite golf tournament to be at is the Open, but my favorite golf tournament to watch would probably be the Masters, just because there's so much happening in so many different places. Everyone assumes that when we're on site, we have the best seat in the world, the so-called front row seat. But from the front row seat, you can't see what's going on in other holes. Right. So yes, I enjoy the fact that when you're able to take it in from a television perspective, we're able to see it in all of its entirety. So it would be the Masters for me.
All right. Well, similar question, or not similar question, but you said the Masters. In your opinion, does Rory ever win the Masters and finish off the Grand Slam?
Rory has all of the physical tools to do it, as everybody knows. It's just that Rory is far more of an emotional player than I think people realize. In 2019 at Royal Portrush, I was assigned to Rory both Thursday and Friday. And I remember seeing his father, Jerry, on the rope line and speaking to him and saying, what's going on with Rory? And he told me that the pressure was too much. The expectation was too much. The emotions of it was just too much to have the Open in his backyard and where he grew up. And so I think that there's a lot of ways when we see Rory McIlroy, we forget how emotional a guy he is. So the emotional weight of Augusta, I think, is mighty. However, in answer to your question, Robbie, do I think that Rory will eventually win at Augusta? I actually do. But I think the time that he's going to win at Augusta is after Rory thinks he can.
Well, from the well-named or well-known name, who is the next great golfer that we don't know yet?
There's so much talent out there. I mean, you look at someone like Brandon Wu that factored in this weekend with a double bogey late to finish third within a couple of strokes at 19 under. And that's a player that I would bet if we went out and canvassed most golf fans, you'd be lucky if 80% had any clue who he was. But I would guess that it would be closer to maybe 20, 25%. And it's an illustration of how good these players are. There are so many players that are like that when you look at them. I would suggest that if we're really going to farm for the future stars of the world of golf, be it the PGA Tour or DP World Tour or Live or whatever tour we're talking about, go to collegiate golf. And what you're going to notice at the collegiate level, even at the junior level, is that the ranks are getting deeper. The amount of work that they're doing with players on speed generation is so impressive. Tom Kite told me years ago that his advice to parents who are trying to teach their kids the game of golf is hit the ball as hard as you can. We'll find it later on. We'll work that part out later on. These young people can not only hit it straight, but they can also hit it tremendously far. So the annals of players, Brandon's just one of them, but the annals of players that are so good that I would tell you to keep an eye on would number literally in the hundreds. That's how good the world of golf is coming from behind. And that's why with me, I mean, you didn't ask me this question, but just as an aside here, when people talk to me about the world of golf as though it's in some death spiral of turmoil, I don't actually think it is. The world of golf is going to be fine competitively at its highest level, because for those of us that are able to see it, there is tremendous talent coming through, and there will be. I don't think we're going to see another Tiger Woods. I don't think that's climbing too far out on the limb to say that, but we're going to see players that are immensely talented, and we're going to see more and more parity of the highest caliber.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned Tom Kite, actually, another Gamecock connection. His son David was in South Carolina, and I got to play with him a few times. So
nice,
great family. So no, that's yeah. I mean, there's a ton of good golfers out there. So I appreciate someone with a little more behind the scenes knowledge getting your insight there. So, what's a course that you have never played that is on your list of like, man, I've got to play this one sometime?
Well, I won't give you a course because there's many in the area, but I'll give you two regions that you'll probably be disappointed in me when I tell you this, but I've never played in Cabo and I've never played at Bandon. So those are two places that I would love to go to. I would love to see. I'd love to play golf there. I've heard nothing but wonderful things. It's just it's a little bit hard for me. It's not like violin playing here, but because my show's a morning show, it's hard for me to go west and play courses. So we haven't made much of an effort at it, and I need to. I don't know about you guys if you've been to Cabo and play golf, or you've been to Bandon and play golf, but if you have, I'm envious, because those are the two areas I tell you I'd love to go to.
I just got to go to Cabo in January, February, and played on a.
How was it?
Oh, well, honestly, the taco stands were the best part. I think so every 3 or 4 holes, they just have this static taco stand. So, like it's Cabo, right? So you grab a drink, you grab a breakfast taco after like the third hole, come back around before you head to the back, or number 7, grab another taco, another drink, and then on the back 9, do the same thing. If I were designing a golf course, the first thing I'd say is where we put the taco stands.
Yeah.
It was
beautiful.
It was great, and I mean, I don't play golf probably near as well as you or some of the folks you hang out with. So by the time that, I'm just having a good time with buddies, we're out there.
That's awesome.
And I, you get to go out there and, again, the violin aspect, right? You're not playing good golf, but then you're also standing there watching the ocean come in.
Oh.
You're on a green. And at the end of it, you're just going to go back to the resort and have more fun. And yeah, there was nothing not bad about it. So
that's awesome.
Of course it was, but I'd go to all of them. There's a couple of them that we saw while we were out whale watching, where literally the greens are on the edge of cliffs. And I'm just thinking that looks perfect. Like I'd go give that a try. I mean, I hope it don't fall. It'd be great to go give it a try. So yeah, I hope to go someday just to try some of the other courses down there.
Awesome.
So what is your best golf score, since, you've basically been an equipment pro for 20, 30 years now? What's your best score?
Yeah, probably right around par, maybe a little under. The interesting thing is, the weird thing is that for years I was actually categorized as a professional because of what I did. The USGA changed that categorization a few years ago, so that it was up until very recently, if you've ever been paid to endorse a product, or if you've ever, in my case, designed a product, et cetera, there were a whole list of different areas that would, I guess, to use proper terminology, violate your amateur status. And I violated all of them. And so I was officially of professional status. And so with that, you're still going to post scores, et cetera. So it was weird. Depending on the event, they either forced you to play as a professional, or they would allow me to have a handicap, which I really had. So it was changed just a few years ago, where I didn't do anything different. I've still lived my life the way I always do, but I'm no longer identified as a professional. So yeah, that's kind of how it changed.
Very nice. All right. So knowing that you obviously are an Irish and Scottish golfing expert, what is the worst weather you've ever played in?
If I guess because I'm Irish, my answer to you would be I've never played in horrific weather. I've been horrifically unprepared for the weather, meaning that I didn't have the proper clothing and rain gear, et cetera, the waterproofs that are necessary. I do remember playing the 17th hole at Lahinch one day, and we got an absolutely serious hailstorm. It's one thing when you play there and the wind is blowing in hard off the sea, and so the rain moves sideways, and it hits you like little needles. That's okay. It's still water. You can survive. But when hail does that, it's another thing entirely. And I remember that the hail coming in hard, and we slumped our shoulders and carried on. He came in and complained about it. And I remember an old timer just absolutely riding us and saying, that's the game. The game of golf is nature. And whether it's hail or whatever else is going on out there, you just pull your collar in, zip it up, and get out there and do your business. So from that point on, I didn't complain.
You weren't wearing the U.S. Ryder Cup waterproofs from that one year they complained about them.
2010 when that happened at Celtic Manor. I was working that event, and I can tell you, in fairness, when they did, it was kind of funny when you saw the two teams, gear. The waterproofs of Team USA had this huge Team USA. I would liken their uniforms. It reminded me of something like Elvis would wear. And as you guys know, when you have a Gore-Tex material, when you put a logo on it, now the logos are they're a sticker that gets adhered. It's not thread. But in those days, in 2010, it was thread. And every time that needle pokes through, it puts a hole in the Gore-Tex. And there was so much thread on these, everything. It was on the front, it was on the back, it was on the pants, it was everywhere, that when it was raining as hard as it rained when we were there, it went right straight through and they got completely soaked. They actually had to go to the golf shop and buy new rain gear for Team USA. Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, if you're not prepared, it'll either make or break your round. So yeah, that's great.
Have you had a chance to hit any hole-in-ones in all of the golfing that you've done?
Yeah, I've got a couple along the way, which was really fun. And one of them was at a Donna Ross course, which I love. Donna Ross architecture. I love architecture that takes from the land that which it will give it. It's not. I don't like golf courses as much that are massively fabricated. So to see a golf course that's basically been built with picks and shovels and mules and plows, it blows me away, because they and particularly the way Donna Ross does it, because you'd see a topography that might move this way, or you'd have a low point and a high point in a valley in between. And Donna Ross always does the same thing. He puts the tee box at the low point and he puts the green at the high point, so that he'll take a hole that might have been stretched at 350 yards when he built it, and it plays equivalent to like 380, 390 because of the amount of elevation on the other side. That's the stuff that I love. I've always felt that if you go to a course, a really special course and a really well-designed course, and if you listen, you can hear the whisper of the architect. And when you stand on the tee and when you look at the hole, the architect's going to tell you, if you take this line, this is where you can have the greatest reward, but it's the hardest shot to pull off. If you take this line, it's your safest line. And so that's the kind of stuff that to this day, I'm blown away by.
The ones that tempt you to try to pull the iron out of your club that you don't have, but maybe you want to give it a try that day.
Right. And then and it's exciting on the occasions, rare though they may be, that we pull it off.
That's right.
Or even if you're playing with someone that pulls it off, it's so much fun to see. It's just, again, part of what makes the game so special.
Yeah. You get to talk about it forever. So you've done a ton of things in golf, equipment, managing courses, broadcasting, media, and everything. Is there something in the golf business you haven't done yet that you want to do?
That I haven't done yet that I want to do. I don't really feel like there is, Robbie. I love everything that I do. I mean, I love hosting live coverage. I continue to work major championships. I mean, from a show perspective, you were talking about my daily show, Fairways of Life, which is a weekend national TV broadcast too. I mentioned the networks, the affiliates up by you guys. I mean, I feel like my job is not to tell people what to think. My job is to present them with the facts of what's going on. I'm not reticent to give my opinion, but at the same time, I don't think my opinion means any more than anyone else's. My job is to tell you what the facts are and allow people to come up with their own conclusions from there. And to be able to do that and share stories with people about their life and their experiences, the same stuff that we're doing right now, is a massive, 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 massive honor and incredibly humbling. And I really don't feel like I'm deficit of anything. I feel like, if anything, I've gotten more than I could ever possibly expect from the game. So yeah, it's a labor of love for sure, but I'm very, very happy with every experience that I've been able to be a part of.
Well, it's sweet you get to be a part of one more. So the Wells Fargo Championship, do you think there's going to be some good stories coming out of that? You see anybody that's maybe will catch us by surprise?
Well, I mean, I think the one that I'm really interested in is Rory McIlroy, because I remember I was working the event for PGA Tour Radio. When he beat Phil Mickelson with a final round 62, I was assigned to the group in front of him. And I remember saying to my producer, was Jeremy Davis back in those days, who I'm working for this week on the TV side. And I remember saying, hey, do you mind if I hang here? I want to see Rory finish. And Rory, of course, drained that last putt to secure that number and win his first PGA Tour event. So the story of Rory McIlroy, the fact that he missed the cut at Augusta, and we were just talking about the amount of pressure and the emotions and the expectations that are all wrapped up in that experience. And then the fact that the very next week at the RBC Heritage that he didn't play in that designated event when he had already skipped the designated event, potentially costing him upwards to $3 million, causes one to ask questions. We still haven't had those questions answered. And Rory is such an honest guy that one way, shape, or form, we're going to find out. And so I'm really curious where he stands, where his game is, where his head is, where his emotions are. So right now, to me, he is the biggest story going into the week from my personal standpoint.
Who do you think wins?
It could very well be Rory, because you've got a guy that's had success at that golf course before. I actually think you have to keep a close eye on Webb Simpson. I know that kind of sounds almost, when we're talking about Quail Hollow, I'm just putting my seatbelt on here. When we're talking about Quail Hollow, it almost sounds cliche because of how well he knows the golf course and the fact that he's there. But it's legit with Webb. Webb's a guy that I think people easily like to pass over and think that, well, when we're talking about star power and the big bombers and the big names, but he's one that can sneak up and he can win. So he would be one that I would definitely throw in the mix. So yeah, it's as you guys know, and as you were talking about, that golf course is gorgeous. That golf course has only gotten better as time has gone on. The entire region is such class. I remember the first time that I was signed to be there for Golf Channel. And I remember calling my wife, Donna, and saying, love, this place is the whole area. This place is so beautiful. And I remember her saying to me kind of almost sarcastically, so are we moving there now? So I must say that stuff a lot. So it's a really, really cool area and a really fun area to be, first class in every way.
Yeah, it'll be a good week, another elevated tour event. So all the big names will be there.
Well,
we'll hope you have fun.
Matt, thank you so much. Really, honestly, thank your wife Donna, who wrapped up everything in Carrabba's as well as is driving you home now.
She's driving me home as we speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly. That she's pulling double duty on the whole thing. So we appreciate you away from your family. If you haven't already, tune into the Fairways of Life. You can follow him on Twitter, Matt Adams, FOL. And then you can sign up for the Fairways of Life fan trips, which, as you've already heard, you're going to get all the jitters out before you actually go up and tee it off. So for Robby, myself, and again, our guest of honor, Matt Adams, thank you for listening this week, listener. And that is the whole story.